morning, Shravan sir. It's my pleasure to host this session. I'm Apurva Dursheti. Now, let's start this session with invocation by Sandhya.
Powerful we are, compassionate we are, genius we are, adventurous we are, disruptive we are, distinctive we are, beautiful we are, revolutionaries we are, empathetic we are, courageous we are, grateful we are, attentive we are, learners we are, incitement we are, rebellious we are, heartful we are, inspiring we are, leaders we are, champion we are, yes, powerful we are. By Nivedita, Apurva, Deepthi and Dirikta.
Thank you, Sandhya. Um, now, it's a new start. We are inculcating something into our process that is a little story by gratitude team. So I request Nishita to present that little story.
Thank you, Apurva. Hello, everyone. Myself, Nishita, pursuing first year food technology. So, one of our top ESL pillars is the attitude of gratitude. There are many stories all of us have experienced, and now Top Gratitude team presents exclusive gratitude stories in every Top Talk. Here is one of the stories which one of my friends, Nivedita, shared a story with us. And now, on behalf of Top Gratitude team, I am going to tell a story. I would like to share an experience of mine which made me content and joyful. She is my best friend. She felt like I am ignoring her, but actually not. I am busy with few of my works and had no time to be in touch with her for few days. She felt sad. Then I made a gratitude card mentioning about my 8 years of friendship with her and about how important she is to me. I didn't expect the reply would be in a serious way. I mean, with lots of love. I thought she would be more sarcastic, as best friends always prefer to be crazy to each other. But the reply which I got from her made me feel astonished and even more happy. As soon as she received my card, she said it made my day. That's how I learned the value of being grateful again. Sometimes we really ignore closed ones. We feel like they can understand everything without explaining it. It's not true every time. We have to shower them with love and care, making them feel that they mean a lot for us. By Nivedita. Happy thanking.
Thank you, Nishita. That was an amazing story. So now let me give a brief intro about our top speaker, Kalpana Ramesh ma'am. Kalpana Ramesh ma'am is fondly known as Water Warrior, and she is the founder of Blue Hyderabad campaign. She's an architect by profession, and she's a TED speaker as well. Uh, she is known for the rainwater project, and even during this pandemic, Kalpana ma'am continued her work and was able to revive a huge well near Kondapur, like which flooded right before the pandemic in October. And Kalpana ma'am, like she said, she never gave up in her works for water. And you know something, Kalpana ma'am also appeared in Narendra Modi's our PM Narendra Modi's tweet. Such a huge thing, right? So now the floor is yours, ma'am. We are very excited to have you. Thank you for being here, and yeah, you can continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Apurva. I also feel like a top now. Feel so good talking to you all because always, I feel it's so important who the audience is, and I try to talk accordingly because and this audience I think is so much energy. I think I will get more energy just by hearing and listening to you guys. Very nice to talk to you all today. Thank you for the opportunity, Meena. I think this is a very big thing. Talking to a bunch of youngsters is so important today because it's not about just water. It is about how what is a leadership skill, what is that on ground learning, and what is that not giving up thing. How do you get that in your system, no matter what happens, but how do you identify your passion, things like that. So I'll just present my screen. I want to call my presentation the last mile for water. um, because whatever we do in the next 10 years is what the world is going to see of water. I mean, whatever efforts we do make a difference.
Hello, Kalpana.
So I was talking about today's presentation, right? I want to call it the last mile for water. And what I have understood in the last 6-8 years of work is that the future of our planet really lies on how we have managed our resources. I mean, and water is a very important resource. And how we have managed it will play a big role in the coming years for the next generations. So, like I said, I didn't start off being a water warrior, but how did I get there? So, I was born, brought up, and studied in Bangalore. And after I got married, moved to the US, and we came back to Hyderabad in 2000. From US, we moved to Singapore and came back here. But in Singapore, one thing used to amaze me. Such a small country, but they don't own water. They buy water from Malaysia, and they almost recycle all of their water, and they have desalination plants, and they survive. And how does it work is something that I have been fascinated about. Not that I was passionate about to learn anything about it, but when we came back to India, different communities that first of all we were supposed to go to Bangalore, we didn't go, and we had to come here because of my husband's work. So I didn't know anything about Hyderabad then, but initially we lived in different communities. So we've lived across the city, Somajiguda, Srinagar Colony, then Kondapur, then Kachibowli. While living in all these different communities, one thing was very stark that uh, 4 or 5 months in a year, every community is only managing tankers, right? They're buying tankers, managing tankers. So I used to think, why are we going through this, and why nobody's looking at a permanent solution? Because tankers also come from some borewell and such, and why are we not looking at a permanent solution? So we tried talking to committees, and then we thought maybe we should become committee members. So we became committee members to, drive this thing of water. Then everyone's priority is not this, right? They will say that, yeah, it is a good thing. We can try it out. We can see, but let's do it next year or the year after because we have something else that is important than this. So while convincing or getting like only half things done or trying and pushing, but again the committee changes. So a lot of these kind of things, but clearly we saw that nobody was understanding what is really rainwater harvesting and how it is going to work. Neither me. I only know that it can help in a certain way. Not I didn't prove to myself also that this can completely work. So then came the opportunity when we built our own house. So the pictures you see here today is our own house that we live, and I, as a designer, also was very passionate about nature, and I never liked these air-conditioned spaces. I always believed in a lot of natural light coming in and breathing, and I also believe even till date that people who like air-conditioned spaces are all very shut in their mind, right? They're not very open, in their thinking also. I feel that, and I think I see that in most also. And people who have lived with nature are very simple. Their thoughts are simple, and they are not very complicated as people, and they're just happy being, anywhere. So I feel I understand that good energies that nature brings, but that was it. So here I thought that let us go all the way out and do something that we don't need to buy a tanker. So it began, that whole journey began like this. Because I tested, I don't know how many of you have tested tanker water. I tested tanker water because, when you come back from the US, you're a little skeptical about what kind of pollution and this and that. Like, so typical mother in me, and my children were really young. One was a baby and one was a younger child. So I thought that it should be clean water, and we had this vision of getting all four parents living together with us. So we were 8 of us in the house. So giving clean water to the family was something that I wanted to do. But when I tested the tanker water, I saw so many different types of contamination.
Light
So
Banjal.
then I thought, okay, um, this is not something we should be living with, right? Every half a year we are living with tanker water. This should not be the case. because even our skin breathes, right? People say, oh, we don't drink this water, but your skin also breathes, right? The water actually enters your skin also. You have to, it gets into your eyes, it gets, so there is a certain contamination that will happen. So there, when I actually made the plans for this house, the first plan was how to make a rainwater harvesting. How do I harvest rain? So that's when I began exploring for the first time, because as a designer and architect, you're not taught these things in the college. The course curriculum does not cover this, right? You get into landscape specialization, and or you become an urban designer, still it doesn't cover a lot of things on ground. So I had to understand, okay, all the rooftops that I have, I need to tap the rainwater and maybe store it, and overflow, let me put it into a recharge pit. This was a plan. And maybe this will work as a water bank. I'll create a tanker for myself in the house. So this courtyard that you see on top, underneath that, made a 25, it's actually 28 to 30,000 liters, but let's say at least it should be able to store 25, 26,000 liters underneath. So this entire courtyard is a tank underneath, which stores rainwater. What you see on top is just a pond that's on top to just do the cooling, but the actual sump is underneath. Then if I have to keep this water throughout the year, or maybe most, at least 4 months, 5 months, how do I keep it clean like that? So then when we read up a lot, we understood that a coal filter and a sand filter will help it further clean it. And if we do a lime wash to the sump itself, it'll add some sort of a calcium also. So it will become a little infused with little more minerals, and it will keep the water also clean. It'll further purify with activated charcoal. So I just did that. Now, after doing this house, I didn't realize whether we are tanker free or not. Till that fact, I don't know. But we also thought we should do gray recycling. So when we did the piping, we separated gray water from black water. Black water is nothing but water that comes from the commodes. Gray water is every other water we use, like showers, your sinks, your RO waste, then your the kitchen, the washing machine. All of this water can be easily recycled. So we found a company in Pune with these two filters that you can see at the right bottom. So we thought, because nobody was doing it in Hyderabad for a small scale like ours, for a small house. So we got this guy from Pune. He set up something, but it seemed to work. We were getting at least 1,200, 1,300 liters every day to do all our gardening, because I believed in growing our own vegetables and having a lot of greenery around. So this water, we were able to use our own, recycled water. So dependability on this, what is called municipal Manjira water, also reduced, because I found rainwater to be more cleaner than Manjira water also. So at the end of the year, I saw that everyone else in this colony were buying tankers and we didn't have to buy. Whenever there was a need, I used to take water from here, and whenever it rained, we were using most of this water. And whatever excess rainwater, we were putting it in a recharge pit. And this colony bore, there's one bore nearby this pit. So it was helping that bore as well. So we also did drip irrigation. We did everything for water. We wanted to see how it works. So year after year, and today I can say it's almost 11 and a half years, we didn't still need a single tanker. That means in the middle of the central business district, which is Gachibowli, we are able to live without tankers, which is a very, very tanker prone area. Now, after this success, next thing was, in a few years, we said the colony that we live in, let us make that also, rainwater harvesting, we should push. And we became actually part of the committees working hard. And that time, there were a few people in the committee who were very nice and who wanted to take these things up. So we were able to take up and do, but still not many people believed in it. But what happened in 2016, that was a true eye opener for me also. In 2016, when it was the harshest of summer, and every other community around us, I don't know if you live around the city here, you will know about L&T Towers, which is like 1,100 apartment community. So all these people were rationing water. Literally, every 3 days they used to release water. And if you have to keep that water for 3 days and use in whatever way you can, but only the third day you will get water. So when this was going on, our community went through summer and beyond without needing a single tanker with all the efforts we had done. We made sure that we became a zero discharge community, that our rainwater within the colony of 100 homes does not go out of the gate. We made sure we had enough pits. We made these injection bores. Injection bores are nothing but bore wells which are used only for recharging rainwater after filtering it. So after doing these two successes made me little empowered. Oh, okay, this thing actually works. Now, when something works for you, you want to take it forward, right? You want to take it to a larger community. That's when I, became part of an NGO called SAHI, which is Society for Advancement in Human Endeavor. So they take social impacting work, they do education, they help in health. And water was also not a subject, but they had a discussion Monday. And they had a discussion, I went and joined them. So I then slowly I started leading their thoughts or projects. There was a group that was formed, but slowly one after the other started leaving for because they were busy with other things. But for me, because it was water, I didn't want to give up. That first meeting for water happened in the Gandipet lake, which is in 2015-16. It was a dry part, very dry part of the lake, hardly any water. So when I was sitting in this group of 20, 30 people, there were some thought leaders called to understand what is Hyderabad city. That is the first time I started understanding what is the situation for water in the city. Till then, I was only knowing what is my house and what you can do in a community to become self-reliant for water. But first time when I thought about the city and I was looking, all of them were talking, but my eyes were constantly going around this Gandipet Lake. What is this? We are sitting in Gandipet Lake and I see no water and it is such a hot summer day. I was thinking like Gandipet Lake used to give water to the entire city at one point of time. This I have read, during the time of Nizams when they built this. This was the idea and that was giving enough water. And today we are sitting on a dry lake bed. So that's when the thought came like, where are we heading as a city? What next for our city? That's the first time this thought came into me. So I said, like, don't you think for a big problem, like you talked, Apurva, you talked about thinking simple, right? Thinking smaller and figuring it out in a small way, right? It may be a very big problem, but how to figure it out in a small way. So I said, let me understand little more about the city. Where do you get for water from for the city and all of this? For this, I had to attend so many government workshops. I even rainwater harvesting workshops I even attended in Bangalore also. I used to go and attend because some people were really good, the kind of talks they were giving. I went to several water departments, the HMW departments, and there are about 21 circles in the city. So different GMs I met, understood in each part of the city, how do they function, what is it. Slowly, I started putting a story together, which was earlier we moved from zero to Osman Sagar and the Gandipet Lake is the Osman Sagar and the Himayat Sagar. This used to give us the water right from 0 kilometers. We went to 30 kilometers, and from 30 kilometers in 1970 we moved to the Singur and Manjira projects. And those two projects also it was not sufficient for the city. So by the time it was 2004, we went to Nagarjuna Sagar, which is 120 kilometers away from the city. So from 0 to 30 to 70 to 120 kilometers. And phase 1 was done away with, phase 2 was done away with, phase 3 was done away with. And by the time we were in 2014, we've already reached the Krishna and Godavari beds. Now these are irrigation beds and these are used by farmers, right? The farmers, basically we are plugging a farmer's water and getting it to the city today. That's what in real terms, that's what it is. So I started understanding. So then our population is going up. So if any of you all guess what is Hyderabad's population in 1970, right, which is not too far out. So 1970s, our population was only 17 lakh. But today, 2020, we have touched 1.2 crore. So look at the
Ma'am,
population. Yeah,
excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am,
yeah,
are you changing the slides? Little confirmation.
yeah. I will be. Yeah, I will be changing the slide. So I just wanted to finish the story and I'll go to the next slide. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm telling you about my understanding of what the city's water was, right? So I understood that we moved out to get water to the city. And then I understood that many cities have done this. It's not only Hyderabad. If you take Delhi, if you take Vizag, you take any city, all of them have been fetching water from elsewhere. So this is something that is not sustainable because our population will keep rising. Today we have the Kaleshwaram project and we have the Godavari Krishna projects. But how long is it going to last? Are we going to erase rivers? So it became a need to make this action possible, right? So what I did in my own design studio, that time I was running my design studio. So different clients that I had, factories, homes, communities, schools that I was working with. So I started getting them to do rainwater harvesting and started seeing results. I said, like, instead of waiting for someday, let me start with my own projects and clients and networks. Then what we did was, as a design studio, came up with different ideas of how to adapt rainwater harvesting in very challenging situations. That's when the first time I understood that rainwater harvesting is not a cookie cutter solution. It needs different buildings, has different challenges and different strata across the city and even in the country. There are different stratas. So we need to understand the strata and we need to come up with a correct solution in challenging spaces, because you cannot inundate the building, you cannot have seepage going in because of rainwater harvesting. There's so many things that need to be understood, but because we were from the building background, it was easy for us to figure out such solutions. Then that's when I realized, okay, rainwater for rooftops and working with different typologies of buildings is fine. But what about our lakes? What are the lakes are the largest catchment for rainwater. But what is the condition of those lakes today? I mean, then first time around my house, when I just drove around, within 1.5 kilometers, I found 13 lakes to my surprise. Until date, whenever I went past these, I never even thought it was a lake because it is fully filled with garbage and it has umpteen amount of waste in it. And you don't even know if it is a lake to begin with. So that's when I thought, okay, now, because these are large collection points for rainwater, we cannot ignore this. So I said, let me take up maybe a smaller lake, but closest to my house so that I can go and watch it every day and see how I can turn it on. So I took it on myself and I said, okay. Then I thought, instead of working on the lake and water quality, how do I connect people? Because if these people have thrown so much of garbage and not bothered about it, don't you think that these people have to come up and say, this is our lake, we need to protect it? Now, how do I bring that behavior change in them? So I thought of many ideas. Then I thought maybe we should do a walk, maybe we should do a run and collect these people. Then I thought walk and run is only a 1 day engagement and that's going to dwindle down. Nobody is going to care about it the next day. But I want these people with me for a longer time. It's a longer engagement. First of all, I don't know how long it is going to take for the lake to be rejuvenated. I have no clue what the problems are. So slowly, like an architect, I started understanding the extent of the lake first. For the extent of the lake, I went to the revenue department, met the new GHMC commissioner. Then I didn't know, honestly, I didn't know any of them. I had to wait and get the permissions, go meet them, and try. And I said that I'm interested in working the lake. They looked at me skeptically, like, you're just one person and one woman, and what are you going to do with the lake? And that kind of a look. That didn't deter me. I said, I've decided to work on it, so I'll take it on. Then when I went to the revenue department, they gave me, because the commissioner said, they gave me the plans for the lake and that. When I come back to the lake, that drawing is different. This is different. This survey map is not, aligning with them. Slowly, I started understanding the water department, the water belongs to the irrigation department, then the land around it belongs to GHMC, and under which comes under revenue and town planning departments and the sanitation department. And you have the water board around the lake. You have now manholes. You have these stormwater drains, which used to be stormwater drains. Right now, they are all hybrid drains, And there were a number of manholes, just, the sewage is just falling into the lake from there. Now, people around, I see in the morning, I go in the early mornings, I see people jogging. They would have covered their noses, just like in Corona, how we do go out now. That is how they used to jog, walk around the lake, but still nobody is bothered about what to do. Then I connected with the irrigation department and started telling, let us fence this because you see a lot of garbage coming in. Let us do a sort of bunding. Now, if I go and tell them, they're not going to listen to me. So I had to again talk to the commissioner, and I said, now I have, I want to talk to communities and connect. Then they were a bit interested. They said, we will see. So the community connect, I said, I don't know how to do this because I am in the adjacent community. This is the first time in the public arena. I don't know how to get to them. So instead of wasting time, I said, let me just go into one apartment and start asking who is the, president, who is the secretary. Let me start talking to them. I said very confidently that I'm going to do this, make this lake happen. And that time, honestly, in my mind, there is no clue of what I'm going to do. I just know I want to help this lake. Then I met few people. Then they were encouraged, and they said, can you connect me to the neighboring communities? Like this, some 42, 46 meetings around the different communities around the lake. I started spending all my weekends and evenings just going and meeting people. Some said it's a useless job. Some said, nothing is going to happen. Many people discouraged, but some people said, oh, it's such a nice thing that you've come to do. So I started slowly connecting with kids and asking them to write messages for the lake. Small, small things we started. Then these are literally the first few pictures of the, first week of what was my first week at the lake. You can see the amount of garbage, you can see all these things, and so many overflowing drains, and many communities are connected directly into the lake, but when I talk to them, they say we have not connected. So I had to open these manholes for myself and understand where these, I need to understand the problem for the lake is what, eutrophication and a lot of sewage coming in. And where is the sewage coming in? Not only the storm inlet, which is done by the government, but there are several other inlets. So how many inlets are coming into this lake? No department knows, or they were ready to answer this question. So many apartments, they said, we don't know. I don't think our sewage is going. So I did this exercise of getting permissions all the way from the principal secretary to open up every single manhole around me. Nothing. They just gave me two people from GHMC to help me open because it's a government manhole. I'm not supposed to do it with my plumber team. I had to get them only. So I started opening. So all around this community was some 60 to 80 manholes I opened that day. That day I understood where is what getting connected, and it, because it, I had to understand this. Without this I can't find a solution. So I started doing this, and that day actually my husband was going past. He said, what are you doing opening manholes on the road? What are you trying to understand? I said, I would need to understand in my head what is the problem. So starting from here, and you can see the amount of garbage. So I got a little cleanup done by the government also. But next day I came and saw the whole thing had garbage. So the solution was only to pull in communities. So now cleaning up is not a great thing that people don't happily come and do it, right? Some of them do, some of them don't. So I've read a lot about what to do with the cleanup. So as a true designer, I made a few rakes in the office, and how to do this cleanup was something for me to understand in a big way. So we did all that, and after 40 to 46 meetings, I met at least 400 people. So I put a ad and I put these people in a group, and I said, there is a cleanup, please join, and this is all what is being arranged. And I've told the government guys, whatever we pick up, they will take, and all of this. Can you believe me? I thought at least 50 people will come, and I was very gung-ho and excited about it. Not a single person turned up that day. So that was my first learning that you can do n number of things, but the showing the result or making people do something is not going to work. So I was very, very disappointed. But within 10 minutes, I decided. I told my supervisor, he said, ma'am, let us leave. Nobody has come. What are we going to do? I said, doesn't matter. We said we will do this lake, right? So let us not give up. So that day, came this thing in me that I have to do this no matter what happens. I will figure it out no matter what happens. So when we started cleaning, few people from the apartment just saw us and came by and started chatting with us, and they also helped with cleanup. So like this, from zero support, today I have 20,000 people around this lake that will hear me, that will support me no matter what I do. How did it happen? Just by go on doing your job. That's it. Every cleanup I did. Now I didn't expect people because that huge expectation was removed from my mind. I said, okay, I will just keep on doing. Whoever joins will join. Whoever doesn't join, it's okay. So slowly I started having conversations with the communities. I said, look, your sewage is coming in. Your children are breathing this air. You are breathing this air. And you're paying money in the hospitals. So don't do that. Let us move your lines out. They said, no, builder has to do, he has to only invest, he has done this wrong thing, and he has to do it. So I even chased many builders because they said, no, builder has to pay. So I tried to create conversations. I can you imagine, I arranged meetings with their builder, with their communities, and I am a stranger. I arranged these kind of meetings, moderated such meetings, and also introduced the GHMC to these meetings. So, because even it's their responsibility. They shouldn't have allowed them to do this, but since they have done it, so they also came, and the commissioner also came and gave some couple of words of encouragement and that. But slowly, even people they gave up, But I didn't give up. I said, no, let us change. If the builder doesn't come, how does it matter? Each of you is suffering here. The builder doesn't live here. So slowly they, talk to their communities and try to tell them, let us anyway do it, remove it. It's not the right thing to put it in the lake. So they realized this as well. So that was a first big win for me, removing sewage. And when communities started doing it, it was like a decentralized action for water. And on the road, there were 4 or 5 manholes that were just overflowing into the lake. Now every day it is overflowing. Now I didn't know what to do, and I got these government departments to desilt those manholes. They desilt it. Next day it comes back. Next day it comes back. So finally, I figured out that the block is not here. The block is elsewhere in this whole line of manholes, and what you call a UGD line, underground drainage line. Then I realized that there are some 4 or 5 manholes which have gone underneath the road and they've laid the road upon. So then now what to do? Now I have to connect GHMC, road cutting guys. We have to get road cutting permission. I need to get permission from water board. Then I saw these are too many things for me to go, and because nobody is aligning with each other. The GHMC will not work with the water board, and water board and GHMC together will not work with the irrigation guys. So then what I did, I have to go to a higher up. So I had a contact with the, principal secretary, Arvind Kumar. I just directly went and met him. I said, I want help for you to connect me to these 3 departments. So luckily he did. He just made one call. And next day, all the departments started calling me, okay, what do we do? Because he just told them to take care of this, but he didn't tell what to do. So literally, I had to stand on ground of 7 days of work, stand on ground, find this like a puzzle, right? And no department has a drawing of this manhole thing. It's just been 6-7 years since they have done it, but they don't have a drawing. But simple understanding for me is manhole to manhole, center to center distance is always equal. So I'm just with this knowledge, and see, I cannot cut too much of the road. Again, they will complain. People will complain. The government also will not do it. So it is literally just by the thought that center to center. So you can see people opening up, right? Luckily, all 5 manholes we were able to open up. And those 5 manholes, when we desilted, instantly all these overflowing manholes. So from 12 inlets into the lake, I brought it down to one single storm inlet into the lake. That itself was a huge achievement. And the moment we started doing this continuous cleanups and more water spread you could see, I saw birds coming back to the first time. And the people there also told, oh, these birds we have not seen also before. And surprisingly, migratory birds started coming back. And cleanups also, I started engaging in different kinds of cleanup where we started doing canoeing and cleanup, right? Make it interesting for people because it's a dirty job. Not everyone wants to come. Then slowly started bringing companies to come and visit, with their employees. We did this employee engagement platform. All these things I had to learn. How to get some 5-6 lakhs for this lake if I want to do some basic things. I did a aeration system with the solar panels. Who will fund it? So I didn't know what was a pitch. I don't know what is a fundraising. I had no clue. I just got a connect with a company whose sustainable goal was water. I just took an appointment with the HR guy. I said, I just want to meet and talk to you. So I don't know whether they're going to hear me also. So they connected a few people when I went there to talk, and they were so happy to meet me. They said immediately they will connect me to the CSR guys, and it was a painstaking process to get that funding and all that, but it went in the right direction. But while I worked on the lake, while I was working with individual rainwater harvesting and all that, one thing I realized was I'm not really attacking the crisis. The crisis is so much bigger, and what I'm doing is only a piecemeal job. I'm working on one lake, and I've started building communities around 5 different lakes because now I knew how to build communities, right? So I started working, and I'm doing here and there rainwater harvesting. So I said, this is not going to work. So I understood the problem and started putting the problem statement together for the first time. That's what I would say the first beginnings of the social enterprise, which I began called the Rainwater Project. The idea of that began like this because just talking awareness is not bringing the change. What else should I do to make this change happen? So understanding the urbanization levels, right? I started getting from different charts and sheets what is the future and what should be my plan and how should I work this out. So 2020 to 2050, you can see the kind of urbanized growth we are going to see, and the population is almost going to double. Today we don't have enough water, so we get it from Godavari and Krishna. So where do we go after Godavari and Krishna? This also I explored this option. Next is only the sea, which we need to go 600 kilometers away, and we don't have money for desalination plants. And the Godavari, Krishna, and now the Kaleshwaram together, we are spending thousands of crores on O&Ms only, monthly. Thousands of crores. And it is not an exaggerated thing. The number is huge. And we are over extracted. You see this really dark color? That is the over extracted part of the city. Groundwater is being overmined, and we have a huge amount of groundwater that has erased in many places. Only when it rains, it fills up the shallow aquifers and quickly dries up, right? The below aquifers, today we get water from beyond 800 feet. Those aquifers are dying. We are going deeper and deeper by the year. And sad state of urban lakes or wells, nobody even knows where there are wells because it is Telangana, it is a semi-arid region. Even the Kakatiyan rulers who ruled this state knew that we had to make wells. They made some 40,000 cherus, artificial tanks. Why? They thought ahead of time. They thought that this place needs these collection points. And if we didn't do this, we cannot survive. There's no agriculture and you cannot survive in these areas. So their far-sightedness, we basically lost that language today. We only want to live, but we don't see what's in future. And Niti Aayog report saying that we are going to be one of the 21 cities running out of water. Now, cities like Chennai, they do have the last option of desalination plants. They have the sea. Cities like us in Bangalore, we don't even have that option. So becoming sustainable is key. So what I did, we did a survey of a small area. I picked up Madhapur. So there's Madhapur 1 and 2. I surveyed all the rooftops and understood how much of rooftops there is. Then I understood that there is enough water to serve the entire population of Madhapur throughout the year just with rainwater. But just this Madhapur alone spends 20 crores plus in only 4-5 months in a whole year. 20 crores. Now, this is not government money. This is people's money. So why are we doing it? We have enough rooftops and we have enough rain, but we don't capture it or don't use it. We throw it on the roads and make it an urban flood, and we create disasters. And we are buying tankers. So how can we call ourselves smart in any way? So I thought fixing one basin at a time. Now basin is a big thing, like it's a river basin is what we call a basin. But here, in my own term, I put it like this. I thought Hyderabad should be divided into smaller pockets, and let's work on these smaller pockets. I didn't know how to divide this. So I met a professor in IIIT Hyderabad. So he connected me to a startup in IIIT who are incubated by the CIE, and They said they understand watersheds. So my requirement of smaller watersheds, what is called a micro watershed, they can put it. So all these terms and all these things I was learning throughout, like all these 2 3 years by now. By the time I started thinking about this one basin at a time idea, which was around 2000, end of 2019. By then, there is a good amount of work in the social arena in 3 4 years. I understood so many terms. Understood working with GHMC. I understood how what are those terms, and how does the government put together things. How do they work on roads? How do they work on these UGD lines? So many things. A lot of collection of information is happening within me, and I understood what is a micro watershed for the first time. So whatever effort you do within that block will contain in that block and help the block to improve water. Now that's what I wanted. So they were able to successfully put them into this block. Now to do that also they needed fund. They wouldn't do it for free. So what I did, I applied for several funds, and HDFC had come up with this thing that anybody who wants to do a social impacting work, we will, fund your project, but it has to be good enough, and it is a all India thing. So I went and blindly applied thinking that I have this idea and I know what is the success story, how to go there. By now I have worked on a lake and I sort of know how to bring wells back alive. So let me, put this idea across. So there were some 3 4 rounds and all. I got through all of those rounds. The final round they said is in Bangalore, not in Hyderabad. So I flew there, like, spent on my tickets, not knowing whether I will do make it or not. So there were some 35 people finalists that across the country. They had people from Bihar, Chhattisgarh, and when I was talking to each one of them, has such brilliant ideas, and I didn't know whether and nobody was there for water. Okay, everything else was some other projects. But I thought mine is the only thing for water. That was the only hope I had. But if I see their other projects and other products and brilliant presentations, I didn't have much hope, but I anyway went and presented. So it was a team from Bombay, and the HDFC core team was there. They actually hear out these projects. So when I presented, at the end of my presentation, they just clapped for me. They didn't say anything because every other person came out upset that, oh, they asked me so many questions, they scrutinized me in so many ways, I was unable to answer, or they were upset about their not being convinced about the product, all of that. So when I went and presented, so that itself was such a huge encouragement. Whether they give me the money or not, at least all of them have understood, because everyone, so especially most of them were from Mumbai and all, they said, why don't you do this in different cities? Why don't we plan our other cities like this? Why can't you go and help other cities? So they didn't tell me still I won or not, but they were very, very happy with this project. So of course I came back and I got a letter from them that I was one of the 4 5 projects that they have picked and they really want to make it happen. So that was some 20 plus lakhs. I expected some 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs, but they gave some 23 lakhs something. And of course GST and all that. But I was so thrilled that I was able to. So I was able to fund this, making this micro watershed, understanding, getting a map. So I didn't waste any time. Now I have the money, I have a plan in place. That's it. I mean, that's all I have done even till date. I find a project, I find the fund and how to move it. That's it. Because talking is nothing is going to happen. We just move things on ground. So in that first block, I started talking to schools, institutions, and this Chirek Public School, they had 3 different locations. They had their schools. They said, let's start. They have done some rainwater harvesting, but they said, now they will look at zero discharge. I worked with these 3 campuses and they made it. And they said, in exchange to that, you have to do a lot of programs with children. I said, I love to do that. And I engaged myself in all that. And it was a very good exercise. Now, I didn't ignore the slums. I'm working with them. In fact, right now, we have found a mason in one of the slum. We have found a well, and we are going to restore it. I am not able to go there, but I have made a beautiful team there of women, and they are in touch with me, and they are finding and talking to masons who don't have a job right now or sitting in their colony. So they are finding people right there who can help us revive that well. So that slum workers and people in that slum, I don't like to call them, I would call them less privileged people, right? Not even slum. Less privileged is the right word. And because I have helped them through dengue and a lot of things last few years, so they really support me in a lot of ways. So this happened to be in this zone, and the lake we have restored, that happened to be in this zone, and all the communities around. So I started going to the colonies, and I said, now I will give you 2 injection bores or 2 pits for free. You have to do 2 or 3 more, and you have to maintain all the 5. So came up with this arrangement and started working with RWAs, and that also was a success story. Then I started working with temples. Temples, I didn't have to even give the fund. I just needed to talk to the trustee, and he said, I think let us try with couple of donors who give money to the temple. He expressed that we want to do rainwater harvesting. So I gave them a plan quickly. The donor came up and he gave the money, and there was another donor who was a builder. So he said he will take up and do. All I need to do was I connected the dots, gave them the plans, went few times for supervision. That also happened. So I was able to connect and kind of pull in the whole community, an institution, temple, the low income groups, then the high end colonies. I was able to connect with all of these. We quickly identified the zones with this the startup, that where we should need to do what kind of recharge, because it's a very hard rocky strata, right? A lot of bores are drying up, huge amount of open spaces, but bores are drying up. So we came up with an action plan for each colony. 7 colonies we worked around, and I worked in colonies around lakes because these are getting inundated, right? So I particularly started working with lake as a focus, the whole area in view. So we started doing all these works, and it was quite encouraging. And all this happened through COVID. And through COVID, government gave us permissions. We were able to give employment to so many people who didn't have a rupee in their hand. So through lockdown, we had permissions for them, and even women, they came up. They were so happy at the end of the day because we used to give them the money right that day itself. So they used to be happy, and didn't need skilled labor on ground. Like, we needed to train them, that's it. But unskilled labor, we were able to do. So this is the whole zone that you see in the picture. And a huge round well also. The Apurva was mentioning that Kondapur well. So we were able to revive through COVID. Can you see the amount of garbage that was there? So while doing this, we were also creating a healthy catchment, right? We are removing tons and tons of garbage out of these wells. We are giving a cleaner air, cleaner water, and we are putting back clean water into the ground, because we have to do something called an ethical recharge. We cannot put sewage into the ground. We need to, that's why I was started working with colony internal roads, so clean water can go into the ground. So innovations at the lake, if you see that bottom picture, I wanted this thing, something should stop. Now I bought 12 inlets to 1 inlet, but that inlet gets a huge amount of plastics into the lake. What is the point of throwing plastics and then doing cleanups? This was also a realization that we need to do something and arrest it right there. So I worked with drain screen engineers. They custom made a drain screen for us, which is a simple pulley system which one person can handle. It lifts the garbage and puts it on the side, and regularly we have the GHMC people come and take it. So you see the amount of garbage that came out just the first day, which is left side, you can see all these fruits and that. So from that we understood who all is throwing the garbage. So the fruit vendors right there were throwing. There was this plastics from this coffee and this breakfast shop which was there. All of these. So we wanted to go and talk to. So I took the colony people, went and talked to each one of the vendors and show them photographs. So now they can't deny. Till then, we were trying to tell them don't throw, but that didn't work. But now with photographs, we said we can, GHMC will come after you. Please give the GHMC and don't throw. So while doing all of this, now birds started coming back, and this well we restored just before the floods. This well is 1.3 million liters capacity. That is 13 lakh liter capacity. So through the floods, many times this well got filled up nicely and it sent water into the ground. So more than 32 lakh liters we were able to send into the ground, from the road, which was getting only clean water. So this year's effort is to create a rain garden around it, but the permissions are coming so late from the government. So I don't know if we'll able to do, but we are still trying to do at least a pathway for water to reach the well this year. So while doing this, look at the impact. Can you see this before and after pictures? tons of garbage, and we are actually trying to create a cleaner environment in the process of creating a water secured future. So we supported hundreds of livelihoods. We started taking up wells, and you see this Kondapur well, half of the well was crusted up. So we recreated sort of an amphitheater, creating an interesting public space. Now I don't want to. If I go there, I should not feel like throwing something there. I should feel like sitting there and having a good time and enjoying that place. So creating public spaces of this, because we come from a design background, that's another thread we already have. So creating public spaces which are completely ridden with garbage today, we can make them into interesting public spaces, because that's where the skill I have, I can put on ground. So I started using my talents or skills in different ways. Look at the results. So we were able to completely revive a lake. We are still doing this Ayurvedic treatment for the lake. We are continuing because sewage is coming through that one single inlet and we are not able to arrest it. But we are doing this controlled growth of weed. We are doing this aeration through solar, and we are doing some kind of Ayurvedic treatment. So it has improved the water quality in a very big way. 40 plus bores revived. Now, in the 7 colonies, most presidents of those colonies have called and told us bores which haven't worked for years are fetching 2.5 lakh liters a day. And in the colonies, there are these parks and there were bore wells which used to give water for the plants. Most of them used to dry up by November. But this year, they're working even beyond March. April, we are having enough water and we didn't have to buy tankers. Almost all colonies have reduced the tankers in a huge way. And this is success of all these common area pits that we've done. Even we got complaints that you've recharged too much water, that there is water coming down from our basements also, which were completely dry. It was not flooding their basement because of this. We had put our injection bores at 100 feet and 120 feet, but there was too much flood and they have built right next to the lake, right? So when there is too much water in that shallow aquifers, it tends to come. But it was a good problem for us. There's a lot of water, right? So 20 plus crores of liters. Now the first block we took was 10 square kilometer. Now we haven't even finished 40% of this block yet, and see the results, right? So we said, like, we don't have to do a huge impact, but working with a local level, working with communities, working with stakeholders has got so much more. I was really, really surprised last year. Out of 7 women, the Prime Minister picked to handle his social media accounts for a cause. I was one of the women. I just got a call a couple of days before. They said, it could be you, but we don't know. On Women's Day morning, you will know. And they said, you have some tweets ready so that you can tweet as Narendra Modi. So that was a huge responsibility. Like, what do you tell so many crores of people in the nation, right? What do you tell? Or what is the message you want to give? So it was a lot of brainstorming within me, but huge encouragement. And that's when the Jal Shakti Ministry people tied up with me. When I said I had this idea of Blue Hyderabad, the Jal Shakti Ministry, the Secretary UP Singh and Namami Gange head and the National Water Mission, Ashok Kumarji, they all came forward and they actually inaugurated Blue Hyderabad on a Zoom call from the Jal Shakti platform. And local government, now it's easy for me to go meet them or get letters and support because they have seen some genuine work happening. Now I'm also outreaching the government to solve problems under flyovers and things. There are people who have solved it in other parts of the country, so why not take it up? So this has been assessed by the groundwater department and has been given to the Principal Secretary Environment. He is assessing it. He's personally told me that we will try to do a pilot, under a flyover. So this is going on. So while wells and step wells in whichever locality, wherever I can get, we start restoring, and this is history and this is our water structures. Even today, you pour some water into this well, it will connect to an aquifer and it will recharge the place around. So this is next to a masjid, Gachibauli. Gachibauli means Gach means lime mortar, a well made of lime mortar. That's what it meant when we say Gachibauli. That's how this got a name. So I couldn't find this well for many years. Finally, some good guy, he said like, there is a well behind a mosque. Do you want to see it? It looks like an historic well. That's when, and I saw it, I knew it is an historic well. And when I went back to the British man maps and that, I knew this is the Gachibowli we were looking for, because till now the commissionerate has a well, and that is the Gachibowli is what people talk about. But this is the actual Gachibowli. You can see lime plaster. Can you see this man standing here? Can you see how much garbage this was? The entire well was filled with mattresses, garbage. 20 feet of garbage we removed and deepened the aquifer. But sadly, it is a dry well, but there is some sort of wetness that you can see. It can revive when you start putting back water. But this well had beautiful steps, and people have drilled holes, and government has laid road on top, and two bore wells have come up right there for the masjid. So things like this kind of erased water, but what we are doing now is the masjid water. There is a madrasa school. We've taken permissions from them. We have connected this water now back to the well. So whenever it rains, all that clean water is going to fall in the well. Unfortunately, the water that comes on the roads, we saw sewage mixing with it. So we said we are not going to do it. So all the broken walls around, we have ripped it apart. We have come to the ground, part, and we are increasing it by another 2 feet. So we secure the well properly. We are doing a grill around it and a seating place around it. So it becomes a public space. That's an idea again. Every water structure that we restored, it should be connecting with today's public. How to connect it with today's context is a very important thing. So this is one of the slums, and we have this idea where we want to convert. You see a lot of inundations like this. You see pigs there, and there are homes right there. And 2 kids died of dengue deaths. And that's when I picked up this project that we should create these flood retention ponds. Now, these are terms that I don't know, but I keep on researching, I keep on reading about and thinking how to help. And these are ideas I came up with. These are proposals that I keep writing to, people. If you have 5 lakhs, if you have 10 lakhs, if you have even 2 lakhs, there are things that we can do with people. And there's a broken bund, and how we can turn all our parks into rainwater harvesting zones, and how we can get these, wells which are in a terrible state to an interesting, story to give back to the society, and how volunteers can become social auditors and water champions. This is another effort. And schools and colleges always, I mean, now you're also a group of youngsters. If it was not for this virtual, meetups, we would have actually, I would have loved to take you to a step well or something, or a polluted lake, to give you the reality touch, to understand what did we have and what we have lost and where we are heading. So this becomes very profound, not very bookish or now like a monologue I'm talking to you. Instead, if I take you to these places and tell you the history, and this is a step well in Hyderabad. This is one of the largest step wells we have. Can you believe we have more than 60 heritage step wells? The irrigation step wells are different. The heritage step wells itself, we have 60 plus of them. And most of them are lost, most of them are filled upon. So our effort is to not fill it up. Keep on restoring wells and showcasing it to people. Like, you can restore your water. That one Kondapur well, 30 lakh liter water is gone into the ground, and improved groundwater for all the apartments around. So that's a good success story to tell people, right? That's an impact you can create. So training younger people to come up and become water stewards. I did also a training session for plumbers, big plumbers from different areas, trained them and made GHMC give them the certificate, because they can become ambassadors for the cause. They can go, you see, every plumber in every area, they become ambassadors. They go and talk to their households where they regularly do plumbing works, and they can tell them, okay, you can do a rainwater harvesting. And if you train them, is a great thing, right? So embracing each challenge as an opportunity in life is what I have done so far and going ahead. Sorry. One small story I missed to say. I'll stop sharing my screen actually. Yeah. So one small story I missed out is, so while we did so much for the lake, right? One new builder, he built and he put one sewage line overnight. And many people were scared because he's a builder who's connected to a lot of politicians and all that. So they told me in a very hush-hush way in the group. And now I have two options. I can go and talk to this politician or talk to the builder, but these people are supporting a negative thing they are already doing, knowingly they are doing it. So how to work in a non-confrontational way? This is also my goal. Not focus on the negatives, because the many days I've gone back and cried that this thing is not working the way, and how much efforts I put, it's not happening. Next day I pull up and ask me myself only one question. Okay, if I didn't do it, is there anyone else who's going to do it? The answer is always a no. So then I said, okay, no, you have no option but to go back. And don't focus on the negatives, focus on the goal. Your goal is water. Your goal is not all the negative people that are pointing and telling things to you. Your goal is water. So go back. So this problem also, it was a little complicated problem. I did have the support of GHMC, so they sent me a team along, but the team is not doing anything. They're just coming there, they're getting few calls, going back. And I'm trying to talk to the commissioners, no response from anybody. Then I decided to go to the building one day and understand what is it, the building B is being used for. Then I saw it was getting, ready for OYO rooms. Then I got this idea. Let me connect to the OYO, the founder in OYO. So through my friend's network, I found out this email ID for Ritesh Agarwal, who sits in Delhi. I wrote a mail to him. I said, look, I'm doing a lake here, and I'm doing a lot of work for the last 2.5 years. If you are a responsible startup, you will, handhold me. Then I wrote him, and within 5 minutes of my talk, he understood what I wanted. He said, I'll connect you to the Telangana OYO head. Next day, that guy called me and he said, look, we are going to talk to the builder and tell the owner of the building that if you don't do illegal sewage line, if you do an illegal sewage line in the lake, we will revoke the agreement for you. And the whole building was getting ready for OYO loans. We will revoke the agreement. Within 3 days, I was able to pull out that entire sewage line out of the lake. So I didn't give up. I didn't touch the politician. I didn't have to go and talk to this builder. So the builder doesn't even know who did this till date. He has no clue, but everything happened, right? So thinking out of the box. So that as a designer, it's an innate skill. You're thrown with challenges on a site, and you have to think out of the box, and you have to come out of it. So these are things I learned in the way, and more and more success I see. I don't want to give up. Every day I don't want to give up. Maybe in my lifetime I cannot achieve this large vision that I have, but I can go somewhere with it. I can reach. Like, I don't have to reach the treetop. This also I keep self-talking, right? I have this huge vision, but what if I don't achieve? I should not get disappointed. But every day should be a glory. Every day I should go back and sleep well, thinking that I did something for water. So imagine, as an individual who knew nothing about water, today I'm able to even talk to PhD researchers. They are coming to me and asking, what did you do with this? And how did you come up with this drain screen? What was the idea behind? And we used a dialysis machine, the mechanisms to make this solar powered aeration there work. So everything was an out of the box idea. So this is like something. So what I'm telling was, today water is my passion. I didn't grow up with this passion. Neither did I. All the while in Bangalore, I lived by a lake. I've seen regattas and I have enjoyed the lake, but that was not my passion. But today I see so much value. Every lake that I can make a change, every borewell that works today, every well that has, today I'm working with a Goshala, 2,000 cows, and they buy tankers. And I have turned around 2 wells and 40 feet of water today. Okay, just even in the peak summer, we were able to bring back, and the cows are drinking clean water today. Just imagine, they're not even human beings that are going to talk to me, but that happiness in me that I've made it happen for them. They didn't have water and they were drinking some dirty water which the tankers they were affording. They didn't have money to afford, proper good tankers, because registered government tankers, you have to wait for 2 days in summer. They can't wait. So they just get water from anywhere. So today, clean water from their own resource, they are able to get. So I charted out a plan for that entire Goshala 70-acre thing. Like, while we do commercial projects for buildings and all of these are projects where there is no help. We take up and completely volunteer this work. And sometimes we put money, we do crowdfunding, but somehow we have to make that, happen. So what I'm saying is, today you're all youngsters, but that not giving up attitude, right? There many times you feel that you failed, you can't do anything. The first day at that lake, many friends laughed at me. They said, look at the lake and look at just you. Can you, do you know how to do this? Do you know where to start? Do you know where to end? Today I can say where I can start. Today I can say where I can end. What is the first thing to do for a lake? What is the last thing to do for a lake? I learned it on ground. So there's nothing you cannot learn. Everything you can learn. And you want to make money out of the social, the environmental causes, you can. I mean, if you work smartly, you can help with the social impact. And you can, because you cannot live without money. As youngsters, that may not be your goal, but you need money. You need to move on in life, right? You can't, I see a lot of youngsters, oh, I'm very passionate about social work. I don't feel like working in any company and that. I feel you should draw a balance, right? You should draw a balance. Both should be there. You should not give up this, and you should not give up your social responsibility also. But if you can connect the two and work, you can still make money and make impact. I think that's a fantastic thing. And we need a lot of help, like chemical engineering students here. I don't know how many of you, or maybe all of you, I don't know. But I feel there is so much need for chemical engineering, the quality of water, how it can be changed, how it can be addressed, the stench in it, how much, how to understand these qualities and how to, restore the water quality in different ways, what is available to us. Things like that, there's so much out there. And simply this RO system, can somebody just remove the RO system out of our world? Can somebody come up with a disruptive idea for this? These are things that I always think youngsters, but unless you come on ground, how do you understand these problems? How do you make it? I have to make this happen, right? That thing won't come unless you're connected. So school kids are a very elite schools, right? I took a bunch of them. I said, let them also clean up the lake. They will realize the worth of plastic, because I saw one day one kid getting out of the car and a bunch of plastic just throwing it on the road. That was from Oak Ridge, right? I went and approached the school. I said, I want your kids to come for a lake cleanup. I combined 2-3 schools like that, DPS, and they came to the lake. They put, oh, I don't want to put one glove, I want 2 gloves. Oh my God, it's so dirty. I can't put my leg in shit. I can't do this. I can't. So there were so many, I can't. And they were standing little away. I said, like, this is how you pull a plastic out of the rail, using your rails. And they were not. Then what I did, all the government workers who were there, sanitation workers, I made them stand in a line. I asked them to speak in whatever language they can, Hindi, English, what. And the kids said, fine, they can talk in any language. I said, they will tell their everyday story. Now listen, I made each one of them talk about. Then they said, the more you throw, the more our health is at risk. We go back many days, we can't eat our food because that's the kind of garbage that we pick. We can't eat, we cannot forget the smell. So some men said, we just go and drink because we can't eat food that day. Sometimes we can't sleep. So, and somebody showed blisters on their hands. So I tell you, this whole bunch that was standing with all melted and tears in their eyes. And then, they said, we are ready to clean up. I said, okay. So they picked up the race. They didn't care that their leg was in shit or whatever the crap it was. They went and worked. 2 hours, I had to literally pull them out. And I said, it's done. I mean, no more cleanup, and come back. So that was it, right? When you create that connect is what is missing today. They're in a very cushy world where they are always protected. And now they understood that if they go out of their comfort zone, and they were so happy, at the end of the day, they looked dirty, but they looked at the garbage. They took so many pictures from, they got phones from their cars. They took pictures and they stood there till the GHMC guys segregated the plastics from this. And they said, you're going to take it separately. You're going to tell us where you're taking this. Are you not going to mix this plastics back? And one guy followed in his car behind this truck to make sure that it's segregated and it gives. So look at the interest from no interest to where it went, right? So I think these are things we can create in the society. We can create a lot of change if we are willing to do so. And all it took was just this. There are several stories. I can go on talking. There were like in a bunch of girls in a slum who were being teased every day by a few boys who used to come and put their jeeps and drink every day on that lake bed. And these girls were in that slum, adjoining slum. So they kept telling me, Madam, you're doing so much for the lake, but we don't know what to do with this problem. These boys come and they're all very high-end homes, and no, they don't care. They actually shout at us if we women go and try talking to them. And these girls have no other route to come. They have to come this way only. Then I went to the police patrolling. I told we need patrolling here. But soon I realized I need to patrol the police patrolling. Otherwise, I cannot make sure they're coming every day. So that became a problem. Then how do I solve it? Then one bright idea I got one day. I should put two bright lights there, right? The night. Then these fellows can't do this, right? Now they whatever they drink and do, now it is all dark, right? They can do whatever they feel like. So when I did that, immediately within 2 days, nobody came. Until date, nobody comes. Because of that, I took only 2 months. I didn't invest any money. I chased the GHMC electrical department. 2 months I worked with them. I said, I want 2 street lights here. No, they are the slum, they are the illegal communities, and you are asking us to put a light. I said, see, at the end of the day, they are people. Can you help? On a human ground, help them. Just give them a light. And today, children sit and read under those street lights, and they once they sent me a happy birthday song, they sang around that light pole and things like that. I mean, they really enjoy that place now. So these are things, right? You just give a little thought to the society. Today, through COVID, I'm sure all of you here have done directly or indirectly, you've been helping somebody or the other, right? Like this, if you think always about the society, little bit of my time solved such a big problem for them, right? So like that, small things, if we think and start working towards so many things. Many people say like, where do I start, where do I start? There's no where do you start. You pick one thing and start working towards it. That's it. You will learn in the go, and I'm telling you, you'll become leaders, right? You will know how to lead the show. You will know how to manage communities, how to work with negative people, how to work with positive people. So and life becomes very rounded. I feel like today I'm not attached to money. All this was my goal at one point in life, but today I'm not. I mean, when I go and sit with these slum kids and I become like one with them, happily talking with them, I don't see that I'm sitting on the ground that they are sitting. These things don't bother me today, because I just feel I look at every person as a human being, as another human being. It's not high low. That thing is gone. That line is erased. Yeah.
Kalpana, can you please tell about rainwater harvesting in flats and homes? Which these youngsters can implement in their houses probably. There are some.
First thing is, I would like any of you to answer me this question. What do you think are your resources in your house? Have you questioned yourself? I mean, I know most of them. Where does the water come from? Tap. And what do you do when there's no water? Tanker. Right? Tap and tanker. But what do you know where the water comes from? Let it be an individual house or apartment. Can anyone here answer that question? What are your resources? Forget about university and all of this. Talk about maybe your hostel or your apartment or your home.
What it comes from?
Where do you get that water? I mean, where do you get? Anybody can answer this question. Many journalists couldn't answer this question, so it's okay. It's okay if you don't know at all. So the point is, you get your water from groundwater, which is from your bore wells, which is groundwater. Then you get something called municipal water, which is this river water which the government supplies you. Then you have rainwater that comes to your terrace. Then you generate so much wastewater every day. That wastewater is another resource. Then on top of all this, you buy bottled water also. So these are all your resources. Once you start understanding how many liters of bore water do you use every day, how many liters of your municipal water you use, and what do you do with the rooftop, 1,000 square feet of rooftop can generate up to 100,000 liters of water every season. That is every year. Every year you can get 100,000. So if you put 1 rupee on for 1 liter, 100,000 rupees you're throwing every day. Every year you're throwing 100,000 rupees to the drains, right? So this is what you're doing. So The simplest system is first understand what are your resources. You will understand that rainwater is an important resource you're throwing away. So rainwater from the rooftops can be easily stored in your own sumps. Everyone has a storage sump, right? So this can be connected to your storage sump. How? You get something called inline filters. You can buy it on Amazon. You get it for different area of roof. If you have 1,000 square feet, you have one size of filter. You get 2,000 square feet. So if you go and read up a little about filters, you will know what this is. And this can be easily fitted. It comes with a DIY booklet. Your plumber can do it. You can do it. So this water, you filter it in a certain way. It's nothing but a centrifugal system. It just arrests silt. And top, when the water comes in, you put a little jali or a mesh or something so that bigger leaves and anything will not get into these pipes. And this can be directly connected to the sump. Now, you don't want to do this inline filter. You can do your own filter. You can buy a drum. You can fill it with gravel, charcoal, and sand. You can do couple of drums. The water can go and fall into these drums. It can go from one drum to the other, and then it can directly fall into your sump. This kind of a do-it-yourself filters also can be done. And when you put rainwater into your sump, always put it into the bore water sump, not in your drinking water sump. Bore water sump. And if you want to use exclusively rainwater for drinking, like I do in my house, there has to be a separate sump created. Why I'm saying not to mix it with municipal water? Because they have chlorine, they have other things, right? They also have sewage. Because municipal water, when it comes from 200 kilometers away, there are several pipe leakages. There is several amount of contamination that happens. To remove that contamination, they put so much of chlorine in it, treat it, and then give it to you. So you start understanding the quality of water, different types of water that you get. And now you've gone deeper into the ground. So you start getting, the water TDS, what you call, is very high. The numbers is high because lot of salts in there. Because you've gone to unprecedented depths. Like water should be drawn from 100 feet or 150 feet or 40, 50 feet. But today you've gone beyond 800 and beyond 1500 and 1800. It is not, imagine you cannot, there's some sort of geological contamination also in it. You can understand when you test this quality of water. So that bore water has to be kept separate. Rainwater, if you want to drink, it has to be collected separately. But before you collect rainwater in this, other than this inline filter, you also create a filter bed, which is a coal and sand filter bed. Now, what is the size of that? How much of water, if for every 1,000 square feet, 2 cubic meter volume of rainwater pit should be made, 2 cubic meter. But if you want to store this water, twice that. That is for 2 days, like 4 cubic meter. So that is 4,000 liters, 4 to 5,000 liters. But usually all our sumps are above 4,000 liters and 5,000 liters. So you can use it in your sump. But if you want to use it exclusively for drinking, you again pass it through coal and sand filter beds. This can be constructed. It's just nothing but a small diesel chamber that you build. You line it with coal and that, and you get the first chamber, let it be just gravel and sand on top, let the water go through this. Second chamber can be just activated charcoal, it goes through that, and then it can fall into your sump. But always remember to connect the overflow. You give an overflow to this from the sump to a recharge pit that you can create. Now this recharge pit can be of several types. You can Google and see. There's a cement ring pit, there is a drum method, then there is a proper rectangular pit that you can create. Now, if you want to influence a borewell with the recharge, you'll have to use a dead borewell. So you might have working borewells, might have dead borewells, which fetched water earlier, but right now not fetching water. So you can do a pit around that dead borewell and do slots. Now these slotting and putting a mesh around it, these things are all available in YouTube. You can see how to do water recharge with a dead borewell. So you can connect it from the sump overflow to the dead borewell, you can recharge through it. Or if you don't have space in your own compound, you can do a pit right outside your, you see these people, a lot of them do grill up this little area outside their compounds, which is not theirs actually, which is the government land. You grill up a little area and put plants, that's okay. You're greening it up fine. But can you make a pit a part of it? Can you make a rainwater harvesting pit a part of it? So you can use your water. If you don't have place to do recharge pits, you can do that. If you have car parks, you can make storage systems under the car parks also. So these are simple things that you can do at an individual level. If you're in an apartment, convince them, get some rainwater harvesting person to come. Like even we do consultations, right? We charge a small fee for coming and giving a proposal. We can give a proper professional proposal with drawings. They can implement it themselves. They don't have to implement with us. They can do it themselves also. So a simple consultation will do. So these are things that you can start this conversation within your community. But where did my journey start? When I saw a success story for myself, right? And when I proved it to myself that this can happen, that's how I can go confidently speak to somebody else. So these things are available. You guys can Google. There are 150 ways of doing rainwater harvesting. All you need to do is put your mind in it, understand how much wastage it happens in your house. That is the first method of conservation. First is to understand your resources and what are you using and what can you avoid. The moment you understand this, then you will really understand, if you don't have rainwater harvesting, where is all this clean rainwater on your rooftops? Is it being thrown into the drains? That's the first realization you will get, and you will know, okay, now how to tap it, because every building will have a pipe that brings down the rainwater. So you have a channel already, and everyone has a sump. All you need to do is a connect, and from the sump overflow you do to a recharge pit or a dead borewell. This simple thing anybody can do, and believe me, it is not rocket science. Anybody can do. And 2 months of water, if you store this clean water, 8 years or 10 years now, we have used this water, we have drunk this water. I'm telling you, it is the cleanest water available today. And we have 80-plus-year-olds in the house. We've had children grow through this. We didn't have any problem drinking water. And I feel we are much more healthier than a lot of people today, drinking rainwater, even taking bath, right? You see, if you walk in the rain, you feel so refreshed. But you can take hours and hours bath in the shower in your own home. Do you feel refreshed? Not really. Look at the difference. Even plants, you see, one day it rains, next day so many things have bloomed and it looks so beautiful, right? So rainwater hazard, and I have understood 2 more things. Rainwater in the washing machine, your clothes come out 10% cleaner. So that storage that I'm talking about, right, that you can take it into your sump. So 2 months if you take bath in rainwater, today they're talking about using rainwater for medicinal properties, right? Using rainwater in Ayurveda also. So that is the level of understanding clean rainwater. Even the borewell water is so many hundreds or maybe thousands of years old, and you've gone deeper, and there is, like I said, so much of geological contamination. Rainwater is clean to you. So many kids in school have asked me this question. I don't know, maybe somebody here also may ask, what happens when it's acid rain? I said, why don't you test the water? Acid rain happens in some countries sometimes, right? Now, you test this water, even 6-year-old, they have actually gone on Amazon, bought a TDS meter and bought this pH strips and understood whether it is acidic. Then they have called and told me, no, it is not acidic. You were right. We can actually use this water. So you have a question, you should answer it or try to figure out why it is like this, or see what is.
I have another question also. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, actually, we are all in Osmania University, right? We have a problem in the College of Technology also. Water problem is there. I'm sure all the students will be telling you. I've heard of this when I visited that. So can we take up a project in OUCT?
Absolutely. I can come and guide you all.
I think the students should come forward and do something stupendous. The first year students, if they take up, they will leave a beautiful water conservation project. If they take up, they can leave with a fantastic mind after 4 years.
Absolutely, and it'll be an example for others to follow.
Yes.
And whoever has worked on that project, in their lifetime, they will always conserve water. It doesn't matter which country they are in or wherever they are. They'll always learn to respect water.
They have a problem, so it's going to make a big impact. That's what I feel.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So can you visit? When the
Yeah,
lock,
after the lockdown, I can visit and I can give you the plan. We will not charge anything for this because
but
just
then we
that
don't know
we take up and
how
do.
cooperative the principal and college
It's
authorities
okay.
will be.
Let us give
So
them the
that's when we
proposal
are going
and
to
see.
help us.
Let us give them a proposal and see, or do a fundraise plan, right?
Yeah,
Even
I
then,
think
do a 1 rupee, 1 rupee thing. That's what I thought I should do for the lake. Initially, I was thinking, who is going to pay for the lake? I have so
I
many
think
kids.
funds will come. I think the alumni will definitely fund it. Only thing is we have to make that beginning,
Yeah,
initiative.
yeah.
I think Shravan has something to say about this. Shravan?
Yeah, first of all, Kalpana Garu, this was a absolutely inspiring talk. My God, this is like, I slept very late last night and I was sort of like still drowsy, and then you started talking and I'm no longer drowsy. I am like thinking, what am I doing with my life? So thank you very
Oh,
much.
you are doing something equally stupendous, Shravan, just like Kalpana with her water.
Yeah, yeah.
You are doing with students. So it's just the differences, water and students. They are both flowing.
Thank you.
And I'm
Uh,
lucky to be associated with both of you.
Thank you.
No,
So,
all these things actually gives you these life skills to fight back, right? So
yes,
today
yes.
something disruptive happens to your family, you know how to fight back because it gives that mental strength, right? That everything can fall out, but you can still pull up something, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Something will work. Yeah.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you that, people try to save, try to always make money, try to save money and everything. I always say, keep on learning skills, keep on giving, keep on providing value to others. And that is probably the best thing that can help you when you are in a difficult situation, because you're mentally strong. You have taken on so many projects, so many different things, and when a problem happens, problems do happen, and you just have to deal with it at that time. So I agree with you totally, Kalpana Garu. So one of the things is, Usmania University has always had water problems. Even when I was in the university 30 years ago, we still had the problem. So we have tried to, make a small attempt in, handling that, because washrooms are horrible. There is no water, and especially girls have a big problem. So we try, so there was like some attempt made, some, I think bore wells were made, but overall the
Right.
situation has not been
Yeah, hi,
holistically looked at. You have to look at a holistic viewpoint. Where is all the water coming from? Especially we have so much land, so you can easily catch all the water at a correct place, and then get the water from there. So that should not be a really big problem at all, because of the land and the so we are thinking, so there was an attempt made. So if maybe one of these days we can have a call, and we can get all of these youngsters also involved in the meeting, so that way together, because I always believe everything starts with a conversation, and that's what we do in ESL. We talk and talk and talk. And so if we can get all of these people, also all of these young people involved in the project, I think it will be more successful.
So we do, projects where we understand the entire ground truthing, right? What we call ground truthing of what is available. So we're working with large builders where they're going to build resorts and that, because this is one place we have to make that change, right? Builders, these people, they should become conscious of water. It's not like after building, figuring out water. You figure
Right.
out water and you put up your building accordingly, right? So we
Yes.
started this initiative where we do an integrated water management study. So we have watershed analysts on that in our team. So I did that team accordingly, so that now I know what are the gaps, right? So I put up this enterprise with having these kind of teams in place. So what we did is they were going to come up with a resort, and they had this plan where they had water all around these resort also, right? It's like floating resorts. That was the plan of the architects. Then luckily they were in touch with us in the beginning itself. They came to us. We understood the entire ground, told them what is, and the first realization was the site is on a ridge. It is not in a valley. So they're losing all the water. Whatever falls on that land goes. And underneath, they don't have good aquifers. So they need to, it was very pertinent for them to do a lot of interventions to hold rainwater to make it happen. So what we did, we connected the water balance. We told them, if you come up with a resort, how many people, how many trees in this 150 acres. So came up with a water balance sheet and told them what is your water that you have, and connected it with the water balance. Everything was super negative, right? So this place was not going to work after a few years. And now we are telling them ahead of time. Then they became very attentive, and we even told them how many trees and what type of trees. You know, how many liters a tree takes every year. We went to this Pune, there's a water academy. I caught hold of a professor there, understood what is, because how do you understand how much water does a tree need? We all don't know, right? We just
Right.
we started
Absolutely.
understanding every single aspect of that and gave them this study. So we charge something per acre for this, but maybe for the Osmania, we'll tell you how much of the area do you want to study, what is the catchment you want to study, and what are the buildings that are put up, what is the consumption, so we can work on this. But we need watershed analysts, we need hydrogeologists. So I feel that will be a more proper holistic plan. One thing is, of course, within the buildings, like each building has a rooftop, so you can connect and put back water into the ground sensibly, or work around where the bore wells can be influenced, or we can study what is already done now, right? What are the efforts done already?
We actually got one of our alumni, Srinivas Kasanath Garu, got all the documents and got all the blueprints of what is all around there. And so we have all those documents now, and we even tried to do a water balance at one time. So what I felt after all that was, like anything, you have to keep at it. You stop, it's over. So I am now just talking to you, I'm feeling like you can be that driving force for all of us to
the final push.
get this done and make the whole of Osmania University. We were at first thinking OUCT first. Then we said, you know what, can we take the whole Osmania University and make them completely water, sufficient? So I think with you as, supporting us, I think we should be able to make it happen. So I hope you will join us.
What we can, absolutely. So what we can do, Shravan, is, and this is also part of Blue Hyderabad, that we take up large pockets of land, right, and make them water rich. So this will create an impact also. And working on smaller portions is good, but large institutions have to become water positive, right? Because they hold a large pocket. So I'd like to see what all is being done so far. So let us understand what are the studies already being done, so we don't have to repeat those things, or we learn from those as to what are the things that is already on ground. And we have also created small apps where we work with the municipalities and our Blue Hyderabad warriors, volunteers. We actually are telling the municipalities to make us social auditors, right? So we will go and audit each home and give a list to the government saying that these people don't have rainwater harvesting, or there's a waterlogging issue here, or whatever. They'll come up with this thing and give. So for that, we have created apps to mark the borewells. First of all, how many borewells are there in Osmania? Has this been studied already? So once you give us the reports, we know what kind of reports that is already there, and what more do you need? Because I see a lot of communities also, they have a lot of reports, Shravan, but they have not been able to implement it. See, the problem is not the report. It has to translate to interventions on ground.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And those interventions need to be taken up either phase wise or holistically or whichever way.
Right.
But if that reports do not translate to interventions, such a study doesn't work, right? So maybe
Right.
we can involve all of the students. We can make a team.
Right.
I'll have our watershed analyst and hydrologist in the team, and I'll also be part of that. Let us study first all the reports that
Right.
are there,
Exactly.
and we can
You
chart
know,
out a plan with the students itself.
absolutely. We have actually within the university, I think there is a hydro geology department or something. So we
Have
try to,
everything.
we try to involve them as well. But as I said, we started doing that project, but then, as life happens, we got distracted. But now with you talking today, I just feel like that we can bring that project back to life again,
Absolutely.
and have we can connect students from all arts
I
college, law
think,
college, all of them.
Shravan, I think we should open it up for more volunteers from this student group also.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, they can volunteer for your own university, right? They can take up that
First of
as
all, can everyone unmute yourself and let's give a big clap to Kalpana Garu.
Yes.
thank you all. Very happy.
Okay.
I'm seeing all your comments, guys. Thank you so much. Also reading all the comments. Thank you so much. Hope this session is so inspiring, because I always say it is not enough to just hear and get aware, right? Next thing is action. The awareness should be such that it should create an action on ground. And that's when I feel it's truly successful. All these struggles that you go through, when you see people of an action on ground, it may be in a small way, it may be in a big way, that doesn't matter. But creating an action on ground is something so successful. And I'm sure this bunch here will do a lot more than what I think that can be achieved.
Kalpana Garu, there are some people who have raised their hands.
Sure.
Vijay Garu, please go ahead.
Yeah. Kalpana ji, I'm Vijay. I'm also a OE College of Technology student. I passed out in 1980.
Okay.
Right. What you told us is absolutely spellbinding, awesome. I was just blown away. Creating social impact is not easy. I'm the father of a social entrepreneur, so who is also working on WASH projects.
Oh, nice.
Right now, away from that, couple of things. I've retired. I've come back to Hyderabad. Right. What does it take to someone to become a volunteer? This is number one.
Someone should become a sorry.
Volunteer.
Okay.
Right. No, in whatever way. Yeah. What I'm saying is that what does it take to become a volunteer? Right. And in whatever way, either the students or people like us, etc., how could we step in and contribute in our own little way? This is one part of it. This is what I was interested. The second is that we also have a residents welfare association. It's a enclave, not a gated community. So how come these things could take benefit of your expertise in recharging? Even in my own house, I have an independent houses we have. We recharge and we take our own borewell water. Till now, luckily in our enclave, we are on the northern periphery of closer to Shamirpet. Right. So luckily in this part of the world or city, we are still not bringing tankers at this moment. But we don't want to get into the tanker business. So this is the second thing. How do we help? The third thing is that OE College of Technology. Yeah, we have been hearing about water shortages, etc. I've been abroad for a few decades, so I've also come back. we have been hearing the stories through the Alumni Association that water shortage is there, where alumni can come and finance these projects, etc. But somehow there is probably executional gap to those plans, as you said. So with Shravan and Meenaji, and along with the students, probably we could, influence the decision makers to take the move forward, because if OU College of Technology becomes a pilot in the university, then it becomes easy. To be honest, when I studied in engineering, I lived on the periphery of Arts College, and there were a lot of small ponds there. And we never had shortage in OU College of. There were ponds behind the OU College of, the Osmania University Library, Arts College. There were huge ponds there. Because it was not like this, I would say, 50 years ago. Right. So we would like to have, how do we interact with you on volunteerism or on specific projects, or where some of the RWAs would like to take your expertise or consultancy kind of a thing.
Yeah, sure. First, coming up with the volunteer thing, we do have Blue Hyderabad groups we have created. So people from their own zone, like I said, we divided Hyderabad into different micro watersheds, right? So if which part of the micro watershed are you, we can identify, and you can make your own Blue Hyderabad group, which I will be part of that group. So I can guide you, like, whatever you want to take up there, or whatever we are doing as Blue Hyderabad and our projects, we constantly keep engaging the group with what we are doing and constantly inspiring, so that at some point they will pick up and make it happen. That is one way of volunteering. Another way of volunteering is start right away with your own home, your own community. Once you achieve something, you can take it to the neighboring communities, and maybe the community spaces within your community or parks you can take up. This is something we will guide you through that. Second thing is specific projects, right? Private projects in private properties. We do have a consultation charge for coming and spending time and taking, and give you back a proper professional proposal that we give. So you can write to us at info@rainwaterproject.com. I'll give those details to Meena, and I'll also maybe share it here also. This is for gated communities and private properties. But in public spaces, let's say you want to work on a well, or somebody has found a well somewhere, so that will be a crowdfunding project, or we can work out on chart out a plan, and then we can work on that. Or if you want to take up parks in your own areas, so common spaces and common areas, we won't charge anything. We will come visit, we'll give you a plan, you can execute that. All you need is, okay, what is the kind of fund that you need, what is the estimates, we'll give you those things. So we can work with even local, people, and give them work and get them to do it. Like I said, it only needs a skill to put what type of, intervention we need to do. But on the ground, even unskilled people and plumbers and masons in that area, we can use for all these public space projects and make it happen. But we will guide you. But private projects, we do charge, because I feel, I mean, earlier I never used to charge, but I felt that so many projects that I have given advice, spent time, went there number of times. Till now, also after so many years, I'm still chasing them. Many people have not done it, simply because they don't. Now, if I'm charging, I'm seeing the change. Look at the behavior change. 90% of them who we have charged for consultation are actually doing the rainwater harvesting in their system. So all it takes is, if you've invested something in it, even if it is 1,000, 2,000 rupees, you've invested something in it, so you want to take it up and do. But if this free awareness thing is not working out for private properties, it's okay if we take up for common area projects. But once you do something in your colony and achieve something, immediate reaction is, let's go to the neighboring colonies and make it happen, or neighboring homes, or your own parks. Let us take up each street in the colony, because this will be clean water. The moment it goes to the main roads, sewage mixed water. You don't know, you don't want to do anything with it. But if you take up a street, few apartments can come together, or few homes, if they don't want to do in their own homes, maybe 2-3 homes together can combine and do some rainwater harvesting beds. If you do it in multiple places, so much of groundwater will improve within that zone. So these are things how you can engage with us. But when it comes to these kind of universities also, usually we charge for a complete study and give them a proper plan. But in your case, because you have already studied, I'm sure you have a geology department also there. So let us see what all is available, and maybe if there is some study and I have to put an expert to do a certain study, we'll charge only for that, and we'll come up with a proper plan of interventions, not just go on studying, but a study which will connect to an intervention and which will make a change on ground. So we will do such thing, but first we will understand this, and we have so many student volunteers here. So maybe as part of some studies, we can use the student volunteers. We can create apps where they can collect information and give it, and it can go on a dashboard. I'll tell you, you guys can actually create a dashboard for your university where you can mark out every kind of water consumption that happens in the university. So anybody that goes on the dashboard will get instant awareness of what is the water that's being restored, or what is being stored, or what is being recharged, or what is being consumed every day. How much water is consumed and how much shortage of water do you have? Why is this water balance thing not working though you have huge amount of land? Things like this. So it can actually, all this study can be converted and go on a dashboard. We can help you do that. We can give a talk to you students. We can tell you how to create this dashboard and how you can use a tech platform to understand water in your own university. And this platform that you create for your university will be there for every other student that comes by. It'll be something that you've created for the university. So because the such platforms are not available, I'm actually trying to see if we can get volunteers to do these kind of dashboards for understanding water in each locality, right? If I like, you see these electronic signboards, right? If these electronic signboards can tell you what was the groundwater earlier, what is it now, and where we are heading, a simple thing, or tell what is your groundwater contamination like, and if you do rainwater harvesting, how much of urban floods can you avoid, things like that. Just a 1 minute understanding of these things will bring so much awareness, right? When you're sitting in your car, you're seeing all these electronic signals. So I even talked to GHMC, we should put up these things so that it'll create continuous awareness for water. So maybe these kind of community platforms for water. Today, you take any community, you ask them, they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. Small water audits, how we can do in a small community. So we have to invest on working with these apps, but that's all my dream, that we should do that, those kind of apps, because once you do a water audit is when you understand how much you waste, then you know how much you want to save. In Bangalore, I'll tell you this example. It is they have about 150 or 200 homes. It's called Rainbow Colony or something. 200 homes, and they have only 4 or 5 borewells. They don't allow borewells, otherwise they have common borewells. And each alternate home has done, if there are 200 homes, there are more than 150 injecting borewells they have done in their community. They don't need municipal water. They use only, rainwater for all their needs. And their bores never dry up, though the area around has dried up, but their community is always, working. So they have made a fantastic effort as a community. So a local solution they found, and they are not dependent on this river water at all. So these are things we can do at a local, enabling local action. So maybe in your locality, you can, as an RWA, you can, come up to us and tell us that these many people want to hear about what you can do with water. I can give, for webinars or giving talk, I don't hesitate at all. Whichever corner of the city, I actually go and do it. But now it is even more convenient for everybody. We can do a convenient time Zoom call or what. You can gather people, I can give a talk. So that's where we can make a beginning with the awareness. And then maybe as a colony, you can connect and see what we can do in the common areas. Common area advice is for free. We can come and do anytime. for parks, for streets, and all of this. But when it comes to private properties, we charge because I think it's a little responsibility they should take up. Because it is also our time, our work in the office, and our time coming and spending time, and even to fill gas and that, and nothing comes free, right? Everything we have to pay for. So as a community, if you want to come up, we are more encouraged to do so. We'll do it for free. But private properties we charge, and even institutions. But in this case, you already have a study, so let us work with students and create that dashboard and see what interventions we can do. So Vijay Garu, these are things that I think I've pretty much answered all your questions.
Kalpanaji, thank you very much. I'll get in touch with you. We are a small community of around 100 people. So I'll definitely, as at an individual level as well as at the enclave level. And Shravan will take along with Meenaji on the OECD thing. I would volunteer on that also, and talk with the alumni association bodies if required, etc., with the influencers who are there. To take that forward, because as a ex-students we also have owe something to the college, right? So if we have the contact details, we'll get in touch, and then once we start within our small enclaves, then probably we will seed our volunteerism and to help your bigger purpose and initiative.
Sure. You can actually create a Blue Hyderabad group where I can be added, and we can stepwise take up action in your communities. Wherever there's a hitch, wherever you don't know how to move about this, and I can always advise, and that we can do. So you can create a Blue Hyderabad group in your locality also.
Yeah, thank you very much, madam. I know.
Sure.
Thank you very much. It's
shared
inspiring.
our email ID, and I've shared my contact number as well. So anytime you can connect with me. And of course, Meena is there, Vijay Garu is there. So they're all part of the group anyway. So you can connect.
Thank you very much.
And Meena ma'am, you have raised your hand.
Nothing. I'm just wanting to appreciate Kalpana's talk, and we've done a great deal of this work in our locality, especially in my house. I've done a great deal, but
Vijay,
there is a
Vijay, it's called Blue Sainikuri, right?
yeah, it's Blue Sainikuri. I'll tell
Yeah.
you exactly what we've done on your Blue Sainikuri group, and then you can direct us and guide us.
Sure. I would love to hear.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kalpana. It's been a wonderful but inspiring speech.
Thank you, Vijay Garu.
Thanks, Kalpana.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meena. Thank you, Vijay Garu.
Thank you, Shravan, and thank you, students. Hope you
Yeah.
are totally charged up now.
Do you want to do
You know
the
what? We should not die down with this thought today. I mean,
Yeah,
it
actually, that's
should be here.
the thing. It didn't go away after this talk.
Thank you so much, Meena Garu and Kalpana, for this wonderful talk.
Thank you so much. Sir.
Let me, any final comments?
You can always connect to me, write to me, or you can connect with me. I've shared my numbers. So anything you guys can connect. Yeah.
Let me present you the gratitude. Thank you, Mrs. Kalpana Ramesh Garu. We express a deep sense of gratitude for accepting our invitation and giving us a talk. Really, we felt so excited during the talk. And thank you for giving the awareness on WhatsApp. And once again, thank you for spending valuable time with us. I'm so gratitude too. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, and it's been a lovely evening. I don't know how time just passed by. So I just hope something has registered. You don't have to act today, but we have to do something about it collectively, because we have to create examples for the city where we should become the change makers.
Thank you, ma'am. There is a saying called "water cuts through rocks, not because of the power, but through the persistence." We could see that, that never giving up nature from you. It really inspired us. Today's talk, 2 hours went the time just flew. And while you were telling your story, the difficulties and those things you have gone through, like it's like I could again relate with your saying, like waterfalls sound so melodious because of those rocks. Yes, so yeah, it was really very inspiring. And thank you so much for spending your valuable time and giving us insightful information. And your profound research on water, saving water, really inspired us. We are very eagerly waiting to collaborate with you. And thank you, ma'am.
Same here. I'm just eagerly waiting to get on ground and work. Right? I think we've done a lot of talking. Let's just do something and create something, for OU. And I think that'll be memorable for generations. What you do today, many generations that come there will thank you for what is being done, right? So I think we should get on to that. Thank you all so much, and thank you, Thope E-Cell. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
And it's been a lovely bunch of enthusiastic youngsters. So I will see the energy moving. I think I can already see where we can go with this. Thank you so much, Shravan Garu, and thank you. I think Meena's left, but thank you, Meena, for getting me here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, all the dignitaries and whoever is here. I mean, I don't know all of them, but thank you, students, for being so patiently listening to this talk, because I always talk about my journey than talking about water. You know why? The only reason, because I was also just another citizen, right? But if you start thinking where you can go with this, where you can take, what is the kind of impact you can make, starting very small, right? And it's not very big, but starting but every small step works, right, towards a larger goal. Yeah. Thank you all, and wonderful, and have a great weekend, guys.
Thank you, Kalpana ma'am. Thank you, all the dignitaries.
Definitely connect back, and we'll make a group and we'll work on this watershed of OU. You should name it something nice, right? The whole group.
Definitely, ma'am. Thank you, team.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.